foremost, she has to know that God loves you unconditionally. That's the first, I think, the most real love that you can experience is the love of God. Nothing else. That should be the first thing that you need to know. And what is unconditional love?
Without measure.
All right, so because there's a lot of people, and it's in one of the points of this, that a lot of women are not confident because we see a lot of our imperfections. We see that we fail God. We see that we don't always do things right. So then in our mind, it's very hard to understand, how can somebody love me? Look how bad I am. Or look how I messed up. Or look if I did this. And look, I failed in this. How can somebody still love me? And it's something that a lot of people don't understand. Because they think that when somebody loves you, it's because you have to do all the right things to please them. That's it. But what happens when you don't? That's the beauty about God. Some people change with you. You fail them, they're never the same with you. They never love you the way that they did before. And you see that a lot of relationships, they break. Mm-hmm. And they never go back to loving the same way. A lot of people stop loving you the same way because they say, wow, look, she failed me in this, and look how she betrayed me, or look how this happened. But with God, it's so different. No matter how horrible our past was or how many times we can fail. Because we're going to keep failing. Nobody can say that they're perfect. That's because we will never be perfect. But that's something that God understands. That we're not going to be perfect, but God's going to still love us. In our good, in our bad, when we do things right, and sometimes when we don't do them right, He's still going to love us. So we got to understand that. That should bring a kind of confidence in us to know that overall, the love of God, it's something that we have. It's an unconditional love. So no matter what you do, God is still going to love you. God is going to love you either way. So it says, somebody read Ephesians, since we all have our Bibles. Let's read Ephesians 1. We're going to read verse 4 and 5.
Chapter 4.
Ephesians 1.
Chapter
verse 4 and 5.
According as He hath chosen us in Him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before Him in love, having predestinated us unto the adoption of children by Jesus Christ to Himself, according to the good pleasure of His will.
Okay, so I want to just establish one point that I forgot to point out. We have to understand sometimes, because there's a lot of people that look for love, right, in all the wrong places. And something we have to understand, it's a harsh truth, but it's the truth, that not everybody's going to love you. Not everybody that comes in your life is going to love you. So you have to understand that. But there will be people that God is going to place in your life that will love you, sincerely love you. And we have to focus on those people. We have to thank God for those people that are going to love us in that way. Those people that God places in our lives to love us that way. So we have to understand, because a lot of people go like us, they want to feel accepted and loved by everyone. You understand? They make a lot of mistakes. They fall into people, and they bump into people that are there to harm them. And they don't realize it. They fall into a lot of things because they think that, oh my God, that person loves me. But it's not like that. You have to kind of know when somebody is being sincere with you, when somebody that God has placed you. And that's why we cannot just, our circle of friends that we have, not everyone can be part of that circle. We have to ask God, and this is very important, ask God to direct us in the people that we allow in our lives. We have to ask God for that. That God places the right people in my life. That everyone that I have in my life is there for a reason. It's not there just to come and go, but it's there for a purpose. So we have to ask God to do that. Because we cannot just accept everyone. We cannot just let anyone come in. We have to ask God, direct this, okay? So in the verse that she read, it says, we have to understand that we cannot love ourselves unless we realize how much God loves us. And then when we realize how much God loves us, then we're able to love other people. But we cannot love other people if we don't love ourselves. And we cannot love other people if we don't understand how much God loves us. It says that even before time, God already loved us. It was in his plan. He already had that love for us. So we have to understand that when we understand and we love ourselves and we understand the love of God, then we can love other people. But besides that, then we cannot. It says that we cannot maintain a good, healthy relationship without this foundation of love in our lives. And many people fail in marriage because they don't love themselves. They spend their time trying to get from their spouse what only God can give to them. And what is that? That is a sense of worth and value. So a lot of people look for that sense of worth and value in other people. And that's something that nobody can give to you. You understand? Like, your value does not come from people, but it has to come from God. How God sees me is how I'm going to see myself. How God values me is how I'm going to value myself. But I cannot allow, oh, let me see how Kayla values me. Then that's going to depend on how I value myself. And that's a lot of mistake that goes on in relationships. When you go together and you meet somebody, you depend on that person to see, oh, how he looks at me and how he does this and how he values me, how he treats me. And that, sometimes you see a lot of people, that comes in their self-worth. And it shouldn't be like that. It should only come from God. That's something that only God can give us. And sometimes we grow up in abusive, dysfunctional atmospheres. And that's something that we can all relate to. We don't always come from the best backgrounds. We bump into people that, you know, kind of damage us in a little bit, or we grew up in an environment that kind of wasn't all that comfortable. But it says that because of this, we become so desperate for love that many times we don't know how to receive it because of what we feel in the inside. So if we had somebody that damages us, right? Let's say I didn't grow up in the best environment. Let's say family-wise. This is an example. I didn't grow up in the best family. So then I don't really know what love is. So when somebody comes, somebody sincerely comes to love me, I don't know how to like respond back to that. I would reject that love because I don't know what it feels. Because in my inside, the only thing I know is just the kind of love that I grew up in that is dysfunctional, that is all damaged, that is all messed up. So when somebody really comes along and we come and we build that relationship with God, we don't know how to receive that love of God because of what's going on in the inside, because of where we came from. And when you feel no one loves you, it's hard for you to get through your heart and head that God loves you perfectly, even though you are not perfect and you never will. So we have to understand that we're not perfect. We will never be perfect, but God is still going to love us. And God will only love you this way, but he will also provide people who will truly love you. And it says that perfect love of God casts out fear. So somebody read 1 John 4:18. If you want to highlight this, that's awesome too, because it's a good verse. That the perfect love of God casts away all fears.
John what?
1 John 4:18. And that's going to give me a verse to introduce the next point.
En el amor no hay temor, sino que el perfecto amor echa fuera el temor, porque el temor lleva en sí castigo, de donde el que teme no ha sido perfeccionado en el amor.
Everybody understood that? The perfect love of God casts away fear. So my next point is a confident woman. What makes a confident woman, like Kayla said, is that you cannot be afraid. You cannot have fear. So we have to decide that I will not live in fear. And that is the attitude that we need to have towards fear. It doesn't mean that we will never feel fear, because fear, we're going to feel it. But it means that we will not allow it to rule our decisions and our actions. Fear is not from God. Somebody read 2 Timothy 1:7.
Porque Dios no nos ha dado el espíritu de temor, pero de amor. Something in dominio propio. There you go. Open it.
Yeah. 2 Timothy 1:7.
For God did not give us a spirit of timidity, but a spirit of power, of love, and of self-discipline.
Okay, somebody else read